Sorry about that, y'all. I don't know what happened. I swear I think YouTube messes with me. I would never in a million years hit that setting. I don't know how it got toggled, to be honest. Give me just a second to make sure we're 5 by 5 and we'll get started. Okay, folks? Getting hit with an ad. Woohoo! There we go. How's everybody doing this morning? Give me just a second. I've got my computer out here, chat pulled up and everything. So I figured I would do it outside this morning, kind of switch it up a little bit. Let me know if you like it better outside or inside. The good news is I didn't have to move as much equipment around. Whew. The bad news is it is a little harder for me to see chat because now I got to look down here. But good morning. I can see 3 or 4 comments on the screen. Yeah, again, sorry about that, folks. I do not know what happened. I don't know who was first here this morning because I didn't even know the thing was toggled, to be honest. So quickly, before we get into it, Nutrient Survival, you folks heard of them, right? They sent me a box of food to try out. I'm not going to be doing that on this video. I'll do a separate video. It'll post sometime this week in the afternoon. If that's not your thing, just skip it. It is not a paid endorsement. They sent me some stuff to try because they had watched a video and they had heard me mention I'd never tried it. And Rudy over at Alaska Prepper set that up. Thank you, brother. So I'm going to try it, and I'm going to give you folks my honest opinion on it. I do know it's a little expensive. We're going to get into Blackouts in just a minute, Creed. Thanks to the mods. Thanks to the folks that have already thumbs up the video. And again, sorry about that mix up early on. All right, so let's talk about Blackouts, because I think, as the video would indicate, I think Blackouts are the next big SHTF here in the United States, and I'm going to make a case for that this morning. So India has now joined the group of countries that is struggling to keep its lights on. Okay, so we were just talking yesterday about Lebanon. Australia's been dealing with a lot in terms of fuel and keeping the lights on. Germany is on the brink to the point where they are now putting out public service announcements and explaining to people how to survive when it goes down, because they know it's imminent at this point. India, 1,397,000,000 people. This intel is down below. For the folks that always ask about the intel, all of the links are down below the video, okay? It'll take you straight to the information source. But India is now basically admitting that, you know how we have the just-in-time supply line here? They have resorted to that in India, and they are to the point now where the power is like 1 hour away from being turned off when they're able to refresh the reserves and things. The coal, there's a huge coal shortage, and apparently that is affecting them. Here in the United States, we would like to believe we are immune to this, but we are not immune to this. It is going to happen at some point. Trudy, hopefully I am not buffering. I am sorry. Yes, it's weird because yesterday I tried the video. I did an unlisted video right here in this spot, and it was absolutely no buffering, absolutely no lag whatsoever. So I know that's not the problem. And if they're buffering me now, they're going to buffer me a little bit later in the video. So I wrote down 5 things that I'm prepping right now. Okay, food should be obvious. This should go without saying at this point. Most of you have been prepping for a while, you know this. So I'm looking at candles and batteries. The bigger candles, maybe not so much the tea light candles, not the ones that look like food that we were talking about yesterday, not the cupcake candles. I mean, I guess those will do, but just the really cheap, bigger white candles. Some of them you can actually buy them. They're for survival. I don't have them linked down below. I apologize, but you can find them on Amazon. They burn for several days, or 12-hour candles, whatever the case may be. Batteries for obvious reasons. Paper goods, not just toilet paper, folks. I'm talking about paper plates, plastic and paper cups, napkins, wet naps and the wet wipes and all this stuff, cutlery, plastic cutlery. If you've ever tried to do the dishes with the grid down and no hot water, you will understand why. It's just so much easier. Gasoline. Saw yesterday they are anticipating a huge shortage of gasoline here in the US. It's going to spike the price up. So here in the United States, probably what we're going to see this winter is in some areas we're going to see astronomical gasoline prices. In other areas, we're going to have widespread blackouts. I wish I knew exactly where this was going to take place in the US. It would be so much easier, but I don't. If I had to put my finger on it, I would say in highly populated areas, cities especially, they're going to be facing a lot of blackouts, okay? First aid. I'm thinking about first aid. If there are any classes available, maybe consider taking a class. Thank God my wife has had some of these classes, but also manuals, first aid items and preps that you can buy that you know how to use, and over-the-counter medicines. And finally, drinking water, okay? I know a lot of people have Berkeys, and that's awesome. Berkeys are great. I know people have water catchment systems. I have a brand new one. It's a smaller one, but it's coming this week. When it gets here, I'll show it to you, show you how it works and everything. But this all depends on you having a water source available. It is much easier to go ahead and stack water if you have the room and you have the extra money. Okay, this can be bottled water. I think the company's called Primo that makes the big ones. We have several of those as well. And then the jugs. One thing I'm going to ask you to not do, please. Okay, you're adults, do what you want, but I'm asking you, please. I see this locally every time we have a snowstorm incoming. People that haven't prepped, they'll go to the grocery store, they'll wipe out all of the water, which is fine, but then they migrate over to the, you know, the baby aisle where all the baby formula and stuff's at, and they'll wipe out the baby water as well. Please don't do that. You know, if you haven't prepped enough water for yourself at that point, don't cheat a kid out of the water they need for the formula. Okay, that's all I'm asking. Please don't do that. Don't be that person, okay? Because you haven't prepped, you shouldn't punish a small kid out there. So there you go. I do think it's going to be widespread, folks. Up until yesterday, I thought it was very possible. But when I saw this report of India basically saying we're getting ready to deal with it widespread, I now think it's inevitable here in the United States. So please, please, I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to make sure that you're prepped for this. And how do we know this? Okay, because I saw a couple of videos in the prepping community yesterday, and they're saying ignore the mainstream media. You know, ignore all of the white noise and what's being done in Washington, D.C., Washington, and just prep. You know, it's all nonsense, just prep and all this stuff. I respectfully disagree. Dare I say, the devil is in the details on mainstream media, okay? The truth is out there. OFC did an excellent video. I don't know if he's in chat, but he did an excellent video this past week called Red Pill, if you want to check it out. But he was basically saying once you've been red pilled, once you realize that you've been lied to about certain things, it becomes a borderline obsession for you to figure out what else you're being lied to about. Because the more you can figure out, again, the clues and the details are out there. Once you can figure out what they're up to, you can prep a lot better for what's coming. And so that's, again, why I think widespread blackouts are on the way. And let me just say this, okay? I don't have the hat or anything, the logo out here with me. But the folks that are older like me, you know the Atari video game company, okay? Yeah, you can't unsee it, Michelle, that's great. The Atari logo kind of goes up like this, and they all meet at the top. The reason I'm bringing this up, number one, I'm an old video game nerd, sue me. But number two, the stuff that we're dealing with right now, okay, the mass shortages and unemployment and, you know, widespread blackouts incoming and just inflation, all this stuff is ramping up, and it's going to meet this winter, okay? Dark winter, I think, is what they're calling it at the White House. I really do think that literally it's going to be a dark winter. And I'm not trying to scare you, okay? But I've sat down and I've tried to piece this stuff together. Many of you do this as well. You email me, you know who you are, and some of you are better at it than I am. But let me ask you this question, folks in the chat. If you had your National Guard deployed out for shady reasons, And that's speculation. We don't know that's what's going on. When would you deploy them against the people to take their stuff? When would you at that point enact, some kind of emergency order that's already on the books in order to collect stuff? You're not going to do it right now when the grid's up and people can communicate and there's free movement. You're not going to be able to do it so much right now. But if people are locked down and they're basically unable to communicate because the grid's down, it's completely dark, that's when they would put that plan into place. So again, not trying to scare you, not trying to peddle the fear this morning, but you need to prepare for that. You need to understand this winter, if the grid goes down widespread, and I believe it's going to, at that point, that's something you need to start being concerned about, okay? And again, this comes from clues in mainstream media, not just Fox, not just CNN or RT or Sky News, but a combination of all these. You have to get rid of the nonsense and you have to put the pieces together. And all of the pieces are lining up to this winter, widespread shortages and power outages and the possibility of some sort of martial law, okay? So I just wanted to let you folks know that. We are the next Venezuela, Bill says. That's a fair comparison. It's taken us longer, I think, to get to where Venezuela was when they collapsed. It is going to take us longer, but once we get there, it's going to be far worse. Southwest Airlines, folks. The employees are holding the line. Southwest said yesterday morning, they put out a statement. They said it was weather related. And I found this to be kind of odd because it's not really affecting the other carriers yet. So the weather only applies to Southwest apparently. And then I had somebody on the inside who works for Southwest email me and say, no, son, that's not what's going on. What's going on is not just pilots, but also like the baggage folks, the folks that are working for Southwest across the board, the crew that are on these things, they are calling out. They're calling out sick. They're giving no warning. They're calling out, 5 minutes before their shift. Normally stuff that would get them fired, but they've come to realize Southwest can't fire them all. And kudos to these people, because some of these people have had the whiskey shot and they're standing, shoulder to shoulder with the ones that haven't because they don't agree with the mandates and things like this. I'm probably buffering at this point. But from what I'm hearing, and a couple of people confirmed it after I did that post yesterday, from what I'm hearing, this may spread to other carriers, and I hope it does. I hope the inconvenience becomes ridiculous for these people that have thrown the mandates down. This isn't going to affect the White House directly, but it's going to affect a lot of other things if it goes widespread. Fortune 500 companies not being able to move people around, and they would start to lose money. Some of your Congress and your Senate, they fly commercially. They would not be able to do that. I would like to see it in other industries, trucking especially. Some of you brought up trucking yesterday. But trucking is a harder one to organize. It really is. From all of the truckers I've spoken to, they've said, it's hard for us to organize because we're either always out on the road or we don't have really a direct means of communication. So one of the quotes from the pilot, one of the pilots yesterday at Southwest, he quoted to mainstream media, "We have all of the control." And that's true. They have all of the control. And what I wanted to stress to you folks this morning is it does not just apply to Southwest Airlines. We have all of the control. We've been talking about this for a year and a half now, right? But we have to be willing to stick to our guns. Something I noticed, and this saddens me, y'all, is that the NFL ratings are up now. They're up almost 10% against last year. So what this tells me is a lot of people swore they were going to boycott the NFL, and they did for a couple of years, and then they went back. And that is one of the big problems with conservatives. And I hate to say it, I hate to be the one to call it out, but if you can't stick to your guns with a company like the NFL and just shun their product, then we don't have much of chance when it comes to these actual companies that actually matter. Like the trucking companies in Southwest and things like that. But I'm really, really glad to see it at Southwest Airlines. Hopefully they keep it up. And NFL sucks, Happy says. It does. It hasn't been the same. I don't know why people are going back, but the numbers don't lie. A lot of conservatives would have had to go back for their numbers to jump up the way they are. They're doing fantastic, and it makes me sick to my stomach. Finally, before we get into the chat, yes, folks, we're getting into the chat. I may have to pop the computer up here on my lap like Santa Claus or something, though. China is currently drilling its troops for a beach invasion. Okay, and this is problematic because they're basically prepping their troops for an invasion of Taiwan. It's not just a beach invasion. They're preparing to go in. And Taiwan, for the last year now, has been prepping for an invasion, to fight off an invasion. The U.S. has actually spent tens of billions of dollars, in weaponry and training and stuff. We've been over there training them. So I do look for war in Taiwan. I don't know if it's going to be a proxy war, which just means China and the U.S. are fighting, but they're doing it in a third-person country, if you will. We saw this during the Korean War as well. China, we were getting a little too close to winning the Korean War, and China deployed tons of troops to kind of turn the tide of the war, and then we eventually fought back to a stalemate. We could see this again in Taiwan. That would be the positive outcome. The negative outcome would be a world war. If a couple of countries are sympathetic to Taiwan, or if they're sympathetic to the Chinese and they start piling in, then we're going to see a world war. I don't think it's inevitable, but I do think that some kind of conflict in Taiwan is inevitable. And I'm curious to see what you guys think now. I'm in the chat, y'all. I'm going to be looking down. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. Somebody's talking about Tyson Fury. Are you kidding me? We got bigger issues. Come on, man. Let's go, Brandon. I was going to film inside this morning. I decided to change it up last minute, and I was going to put a sign up that said, "Let's go, Brandon." I'll do that at some point. Do you guys like it better outside like this or inside? If you can just let me know in the chat, that would be awesome. Everybody's saying, "Let's go, Brandon." Bobby says, "Sheriffs take America back." Sheriffs do have a lot of power. Not all of them are constitutional sheriffs. That's the major issue at this point. Half of them have drank the Kool-Aid. Susan S., thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, ma'am. Bama Jen says, "Inside, American Trucker's Wife. Thank you for being here." Gray the Beard, thank you for being here as well. Jennifer Cruz, how you doing, ma'am? Let's see. I Spy is up in here, outside, and let's go, Brandon. So, because I probably missed it, I was running my mouth. What are you folks prepping for in terms of dark winter? Honorable mention goes to ammo. Have y'all noticed? I guess it's this way everywhere. It seems this way online now, and here locally, the prices have went up substantially, and there's not as much to choose from anymore. Victoria, you look comfortable out there. I'm comfortable everywhere that I'm not walking miles on end and smelling steak and cheese. Propane, that's a very good prep. I see you for propane. We were in Walmart yesterday evening, and we saw the Buddy heaters are on sale. They were like $84. There's a smaller version, so that's an option for some people that may not already have one. And that's a pretty good price. It's like $40 off, I think. Wool blankets, Nana, that is awesome. With wool blankets, I will tell you, pay a little extra. Pay a little extra for a good wool blanket because some of them will itch you to death. The cheap ones are not as waterproof as they should be. Military surplus, you're going to pay extra, but you know you're getting the real deal. Petroleum products. Just picked up 3 boxes of buckshot and a box of turkey loads. There you go. Today. She works with a really nice lady, and they own a farm, her and her husband, and they sell beef. Okay, but you have to get like half, or you have to get a quarter. Like, they don't sell packs when they do it this way. And she was like, well, maybe we can get a quarter and put it in the, the deep freezer we have here. And I'm like, are you nuts? We would have to unload everything that we have, and that we don't have the room for that. You know, it's good to know these kind of people, but that takes up a lot of room. Hot Hands, that is a very, very good prep. Night of the Living Prepper, very good prep. Vehicle, yeah, J.R. Cannon said fuel, absolutely gasoline, and also vehicle parts. My mechanic was having trouble getting parts, not for me, but I noticed he was complaining a while back about not being able to get certain parts, or having to wait a really long time for them to come in, and customers were mad, but he couldn't do anything about it. Hot Pockets, good luck. Body armor, that is very good. Some kind of solar generator, Kenneth. Solar gennies, they're a good prep. They're a little more expensive up front, but well worth it. Firewood, socks. John Marskin Farm. I need to turn the brightness up a little bit. Chickens and rabbits. Oh, let's see here. And slow chat is on. Wow. Yes, absolutely, Larry. That's worth mentioning 100 times. Preps for your pets. You know, some pets need medication and food, obviously. Food, the canned food here is almost non-existent. I don't know if I've seen any canned food in a while. We have the bag food, but that's a good question. But we don't have all the brands here. Now, that may just be regional. Ken says, John, in your opinion, if war was going to come to us, do you think it would be the Chinese through Canada or the Taliban up from the southern border? Neither. I don't think that either one of those is a threat coming into the United States physically. I think China is trying to turn our country into a communist country from within, and they're using the rules that are in place. I think that the U.S. is probably headed for war, but it's going to be elsewhere. It's going to be another war that we really can't afford. Now, I'm really focused on Taiwan on that one. And if that were to take place, there would be some chaos here at home as well. The communist groups would try and overthrow the government, I think. But shortages would be the main thing. A lot of rationing at that point. I agree. Shadowcat said, war's here. We just ain't started shooting yet. I agree. I think the communist groups, because that's what they are. Over on the left wing, your Tifa groups, they are communist militias, okay? And then on the far right, the ones that are demonized, those are constitutional militias. And at some point, they're going to get down to business. It's just a matter of when. Mames, we are in a cold civil war. I agree totally, man. Chainsaw, God's country. That's another reason also to, somebody said prep fuel. That's another reason for chainsaws and things, especially if you have a wood stove. Swamp Billy, I'm going to paraphrase you here. Folks need to be worrying about your physical health. That is absolutely true. If you can't get out and exercise, maybe switch the way you're eating a little bit and try and drop a few pounds. I've known preppers that will, at some points in times, they will back off the way they eat just to kind of get their body used to eating less also. That helps with losing weight, which I need to, I'm like 20 pounds overweight. I'm 6'4", but I can't hide it as well as I used to. But I've switched the way, since I've been sick, folks, I've switched the way that I eat a lot. I'm eating a lot more salads and stuff. I hate to admit that, but let it be known that if there's a cheesesteak to be had, a good one, I will eat that. Extra oil for generators, absolutely, Keith. We have several of the small bottles of the cycle oil. Kenneth, thank you. I did not even know that we had 1,000 people in here. I appreciate that, buddy. It's hard for me to keep up with the phone and also the the PC here, but that is awesome. Thank y'all. And again, if you have thumbs up the video, I appreciate that. And if you haven't, well, may Nancy Pelosi be your mother or something. May AOC teach your children math in school. My God. It is, Jennifer. Listen, she said, I tried that liquid IV and it is absolutely disgusting. It is. But here, a bunch of people left. They're like, man, we ain't talking about Nancy Pelosi. It is, Jennifer, but I think that alone kept me out of the hospital. What I've noticed with the C-19 here is people that get hospitalized, it doesn't seem like they have a great success rate of getting back out of the hospital, you know? And I don't want to go down a conspiracy hole, but I was trying everything I could not to go to the hospital. And one of the biggest reasons people go to the hospital once they have the Delta or the C-19 is dehydration. So my wife immediately started pulling this out, and she's like, drink this. And, oh, it's horrible. Yeah, especially when you're sick. But one bottle is equivalent to like 3 bottles of Gatorade. So I do think, I mean, I was pissing a lot, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. Wife helping me to the bathroom. But I think that kept me out of the hospital. Pedialyte's good as well, Mama Jules. But the liquid IV works, you know, within minutes. A lot faster than Pedialyte. Prepper trucking. How long till we get back to normal after this winter? We ain't getting back to normal. Not like we used to be, I don't think. I think the better question is how long before we enter civil war after this winter? Because I think that's coming at some point, brother. This winter is going to be crazy. I don't want to say for sure that we're going to go into a martial law, but I really am concerned with the National Guard being deployed out and going dark, you know, because then you can't communicate with other people and let them know what's going on. So that is a concern for me. And then after the winter's over, we're just not going to be in good times. Protective clothes, that's an awesome prep. Gray the Beard, we will need cultural secession. We can't. I mean, we can't coexist anymore in this country. We can't. The people that are on the right are so far right that it's not even funny. And the people that are on the left are so far left now, it's not even funny. There's no more middle of the road. And I wish there was. You know, I can remember a time like in my 20s when everybody seemed to get along. They would be pissy towards each other on election day, and then it was business as usual. But our bureaucrats on both sides of the aisle, mainstream media has a lot of blame on their shoulders for dividing the country, I think. Brandy, where can you find the liquid IV? We have found it at Walmart. We have also found it on Amazon. And I think some of the pharmacies, Walgreens, I believe, has it. Wood. Dave, that's an excellent prep. We have some that we keep dry just because it's easier to burn. We probably don't have enough to get all the way through winter, but we have other options too. Cogito, irresponsible reporting, mainstream media has doomed the nation. They really have. They've divided people to the point where both sides of the aisle, we don't want to live with each other anymore. You know, I've talked to people, I ain't kidding y'all. I've talked to people from the nation that have emailed and said, I've lost family members because I'm a conservative. They won't speak to me anymore. And I'm sure it's, you know, on the flip side of the coin, I'm sure some conservatives have said, I can't deal with this liberal anymore in my family. And it's really sad that it would get to that point. But that's where we're at. And thank y'all. Yesterday I'd reported, I think it was 60,000 service members have refused to comply. And several of you sent me intel, inboxed me. And it's actually over 100,000, including the National Guard and everything. And I did not know that. So thank y'all for that intel yesterday. I love getting intel. Again, the email's down below. Y'all can email me. I promise you I will look at it. But it's got to be from a halfway reputable source, you know, not somebody's personal blog. or something like that. It's got to come from somewhere where there's some actual credibility, you know. And I'll even look at InfoWars, because I think a lot of the stuff Alex Jones throws out there, they'll probably buffer me, is credible. I think he is probably one of the best at piecing together the clues that the elites leave behind, and that's why they ghosted him from the internet, or from, you know, mainstream media at least. So he has a lot of truth on his channel as well. Antifa's a front group. Well, they're just they're shock troops. They are, you know, they're like stormtroopers from Star Wars or something. They're really dumb. They're not going to hit the target with anything. They're shooting each other, for God's sake. But they're funded by some really evil people. And their job is to create chaos. And that's it. That's their entire purpose for being here in the United States. Create enough chaos to where the country can flip over to a communist country. Frost Phoenix Preparedness. John, from my area, they are buffering me every 3 seconds. I'm sorry, guys. If I'm buffering at all, I am sorry. Again, I did try this out yesterday to make sure there's no buffering. And there wasn't. It was HD and everything. Of course, I wasn't talking about Alex Jones and Tifa. It was more like, hey, I'm testing this out. So I'll close it up here in a minute. Just buffered when I said buffering, Michelle. Oh, God. So I'll close it up in a minute. But let me say, first of all, Back to the Woods is in the chat. Am I seeing this correctly? My wife come got me yesterday on y'all's Facebook. You have MREs for $5. Back to the Woods. Did I see that right yesterday? And second, if you folks have anything else you would like to talk about, we can go ahead and talk about it while we're all here. She said they got down in Tennessee, they got $5 MREs. I about fell on the floor, unless they're getting ready to go out of date. Yes, sir. Wow. If you could let the folks know in chat if you ship. That's something I forgot to ask when I was down there. If you ship or anything here in the continental U.S., because that's a killer deal. $5, man. I told her, I said if we were down there, I'd buy the whole bin, as long as they were in date. $5, man. I found them out of, you know, slightly out of date before, at tactical shops and surplus shops, and they haven't even been $5. So that's crazy. Charlie B, not enough National Guard to take on one country. That is true. However, if the grid is down and there's really no communication back and forth, they could potentially go in and martial law on a certain area, random train, and you wouldn't even know it, you know, until they got to your neighborhood. American Airlines slow down today. Thank you, Big German. I had not heard that. I really haven't checked the news this morning. Train. Michelle remembers the trains. But Big German, I'll get into that story here shortly when I get off. I'm going to rewatch the chat replay, and then I'll go in and I'll see what's going on. Maybe this thing is spreading like the plague, son, throughout all of the airlines. Let me finish by saying this, okay? Flash thunder. Marie Kendra, who puts out a video every now and then. She doesn't put them out every day. She's here on YouTube. She's awesome. She works in education, or she used to. She did a video and she said what she learned from working in education is as long as the threat of going to the principal's office is real, kids will stay in line. But once kids figure out that they're actually in control of the classroom and not the teacher, and they go buck wild, there's nothing the teacher can do about it. Folks, we are the kids in this analogy, and if we all come together and realize we have the control, no president can tell us what to do. No bureaucrat, no employer can tell us what to do. We have the control. And so I just want to leave y'all with that note this morning. But I appreciate y'all being here. Tomorrow, I may do it from the office. It's a little closer to the router. That way, buffering is not an issue at all. But we'll see. I'll go back in and see if there's any kind of buffering, okay? Michelle Phillips says, preach. Well, I'm not a preacher, but I do know that if we come together like they have done at Southwest, we take our country back. All right. Y'all take care and God bless.